Hi, and welcome to the Bleeding Edge podcast. I'm your host, Ralph Benker, and today I've got Stephen Sumner on the show. Stephen is the founder of Beasr.World, a new innovative marketplace that's designed to make home moving easy. So with this platform, he's actually utilized a range of AI tools, and it's a really innovative way of moving because all of the services are in one place. He's targeting agents, he's targeting home movers, he's targeting service providers, and the platform is going live in January. So I guess you might call this somewhat of a pre-launch show. With that, let's dive in. It's really good to have this conversation, and I was a little bit kind of wondering when you're going to be ready to really launch and tell the world and make a noise about it.
Well, the boys are still putting a bit of sticky tape and glue and string to everything. We did a beta launch back in July now, and really that was obviously to test the underlying assumptions across not just the technology but also the user behavior, and it allowed us to present something that was more than the MVP. Because about 18 months ago, I put together an MVP off WordPress and 11 Labs, and that allowed us to really just present the concept. And off the back of that concept, and we presented the concept into other businesses. Basically, we said, look, here's what we're building, here's what we're going to do, here's our approach. We are taking an agentic approach rather than just an AI assistant. But ultimately, what's in it for you is that we will send you customers who have already pre-agreed that they want to buy your services. To anything from mortgages, conveyances, self-storage through to furniture, etc., etc. So using that MVP, the WordPress and the 11 Labs one, we managed to get ourselves £16 million worth of signed contracts. So will you build it and then send us the traffic and we'll pay you a percentage of those deals. In other terms, a direct affiliate relationship, really, where we're doing the marketing off the back of the agentic platform. And then in between that, obviously still keeping the consultancy going to keep the lights on.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's a smart move. And I would say the market in terms of consultancy, it's kind of moved to a must-have. If you're not innovating now, a lot of people will be paralyzed by everything that's going on. But this is actually the moment where you need to make a move, because if you can't afford it, you're almost certainly dead. And if you think you can't afford it, then you better find a way of making it possible, because the right partners are able to step change your business in such an interesting way. And I just think the opportunities are staggering up.
Where we're currently at is we've got our marketplace is primarily offer driven. So we've got currently 150,000 plus, probably be another 10,000 by the end of the day-to-day products on there across many categories. And, when you're a house mover, you'll get this. I think most people get it. And it's the thing that drew me in, really, was finding that house, whether you're buying, renting, or actually selling it, is a bit of a job in itself. And so I recognize that agentic was probably the route forward to easing the stress associated with doing that, rather than having to spend countless hours trawling through God knows how many property portals. But let's use Rightmove, because that's the obvious one at the moment. And and then you're having to save and do everything else. The fact that you could just have a conversation, as we're having one now, and say, look, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom, needs to be unfurnished. I want it in Harrogate, North Yorkshire, and I've got a monthly rental budget of £1,300. And I don't want it right in the city centre, but I don't want it too far out, so I can walk in and enjoy the restaurants, the bars, and the other leisure facilities. Could you go and find me something? And the way that we designed our agents is that's exactly what they do. They'll go off, they'll find all those properties, they'll curate those properties for you, and then you can effectively Tinder style swipe right or swipe left, depending on whether you like them or not. And once you've shortlisted your properties, you can then ask the agent to liaise with the relevant estate agents for those properties and organise viewings for you. If you want them to go and find you people that can give you a mortgage, then they can go and do that based on information that you provide, obviously. So all of that was the first stage that I looked at, and I just thought if I can simplify that, great. But then the more I got into it, and it's going to sound a bit silly because it's not exactly a low price shopping venture when you're looking at a house, but in reality, it's a one-off purchase that's made of one-off purchases. So, you only hire your conveyancing lawyer once. You only go and find a mortgage provider once until the next time that you move. You might take out contents and buildings insurance, but that's a one-off purchase. Coming from multi-channel retail land, you'll get this as much as I do. What we're after is frequency of purchase. And so you don't just want to get that first one, you want to get the business ongoing. And so I started to do a bit more research, and without getting too lost in the numbers, the average home mover in the UK the home mover that buys a property spends about 15,500 over the first 12 months on things like new furniture, maybe outdoor garden furniture, things that turn the house into a home, so home makeover type stuff across a whole range of categories. And if you're looking at people that rent properties, it drops by about 50%, but it's still about £7,500 a year. And I just thought if we could grab the attention of people who are moving properties and then provide them with a solution that says, look, agentic wise, you don't have to now spend hours and hours going around the web trying to find those products and solutions that you want. We've already done that for you. Not only have we done that for you, we've done that where we guarantee that they're the lowest price. So it saves you lots of time, effort and energy. So let's say now you're saying, I'm just about to move. I need some new bedroom furniture, some economical dining and living room furniture to go with it. And what have you got for some seasonal outdoor furniture? And the agent will probably have a conversation with you, ask you a few more questions, but the agent will then go away onto our marketplace and bring back a curated selection of all of those products. In the same way I just described what you do with the property, you sort of not necessarily swipe left or swipe right, but you'll sort of favor them, add them to your unified basket. Now, we know that ChatGPT have been trying to do this and rush it out ahead of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Where I think that we're way ahead is we're providing a unified basket, whereas on ChatGPT, if you like something, you've got to deal with each of those merchants individually. So you've got to interact with them. What they're trying to do is to complete the loop with a purchase. So allow their agent to go off and make the purchase with you. Now, whilst businesses like the idea of that, at this stage, it's probably the younger Gen Z sector that aren't overly fussed about the security implications that go with it. We've got that built in, but we're going to allow that final mile to be done by you, the consumer. So we want to keep your confidence and trust level up. So we'll find all those products for you. We'll pull them together. We'll guarantee that you'll get a minimum of £500 savings in the first 3 months if you use our platform. And away you go. And then to top it all off, for all home movers or anybody that's moved in and around the different countries, we all have this thing where we go, I wish I knew that before I moved, because you tend to find out all the juicy stuff. The best restaurants, the best gyms, the best schools, lots of different things after you've moved. So we've added a community element into the platform that allows people to effectively ask those questions, things I wish I knew before I moved. And you can connect with locals and get a lot of those questions answered. Anything from where do I get the school tie through to we want to have a celebration. Where's the best restaurant to do that? It needs to be Italian, Chinese, or whatever it needs to be. So we're trying to sort of map the entire home moving process under a brand promise that I've stuck to from day one of making it all surprisingly easy. And that's been my brief to my dev design team, to the way that we structured the whole thing to make sure that every product that comes onto the marketplace is the lowest price in the market, and not necessarily selling cheap steak, but selling steak cheap. And that's really been the ethos. So that's been our approach. I can tell you a little bit more about one of the big surprises that came out of it that we hadn't planned at the start in a moment, but I hope all that that makes sense to you. We're pretty close to a public launch now. We're going to launch in January because that's the main start of the big home moving season. So we want to try and get in at the beginning of that. And we're pretty proud of what we've built. And what we've built has been learned through a lot of knowing what not to do. Well, we only know what to do, not what to do, because we started building it 18 months to 2 years ago. So as you said before, there's a lot of businesses looking at this. Where do they go? What do they do? You and I had a conversation the last time around, which was, most, particularly retail businesses, don't have their product inventory management platform ready to be even ingested by AI. A lot of them are looking at this chat GPT where Etsy are on there and Walmart are on there without realizing that actually every single retailer of note have already got a great back office that ChatGPT hasn't got. And therefore, what they're doing is handing over the customer relationship and the transaction into a chat GPT platform. Whereas if they have Agentic deployed within their own platform, they can then offer a hell of a lot more capability to the Agentic platform. I don't know if you talk about Tesco, you've got all the loyalty card points, you've got all the preferences from customer shopping. You're going to hand that over to ChatGPT, or you're going to keep that within your own walls, which is exactly what Amazon have done. So loads going on, loads of opportunities, and as with anything, if you can learn from people that have already made some of those mistakes, then great. Out of all of that journey has come an absolutely fantastic opportunity that I hadn't really considered, but we're now going to run with.
Well, I think what's incredible about what you've described is just the sheer expanse of the customer life cycle that you cover. So essentially the scenario is you're thinking about moving house. This platform will actually allow you to start browsing locations, and it will actually start searching properties for you using one of your agents. At some point, you're going to want to think about actually accessorizing that property and decorating it. And another agent will essentially take over the process of helping you find product to fill the space and decorate it the way that you want. And of course, you're going to want to get involved with the community. You're going to be looking for local services. You're going to be looking for schools. You're going to want to find out what the traffic's like during the school run. And that is also taken care of by an agent. And so I think this is quite fascinating, really, as a solution, because you've moved beyond the concept of, real estate search. You've moved beyond the concept of retail, and you've moved into a concept of experience, the experience of actually moving home and having all of that channeled through your platform with smart agents, essentially helping you do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. And the way that I sort of simplify it is, we're all used to, certainly with Google primarily, the search, find, retrieve, and then it's still over to you to do stuff. What we're trying to put together is that same sort of process, but actually take out a lot of that hard work for you, in the same way that, if you walk into a hotel or a restaurant and speak to a concierge, and they'll tell you, what the flavor of the day is, or where, if you go into a hotel, you want to get tickets for a local theatre, they'll go off and do that for you. You arrive back to your hotel having been out, and hey presto, there's your tickets added to your theatre tickets added to your bill. So I try and keep my guys focused on the surprisingly easy brand promise, and it's really anchored everybody, both internally, and the idea is to anchor that brand promise externally for users. And it's been fantastic journey, I have to say. And in all honesty, the turning point for me was about 4 months ago. Following our conversation, you introduced me to a young man called Jay Belaine. I hesitate to give his full name because people will go chasing him now, and he's been worth his weight in gold. I have to say, he just blew me away in that first hour where I met him. I then gave him free license to have a look at a number of functions and features that we were looking at developing. In fairness to the other people in the team, who have done a great job, but they were primarily involved in the MVP and validation piece, they probably spent 12 months in relation to the 2 months that Jay spent on this, and he's taken us to a completely different level. So from a guy like me who's got the vision, got a bit of technical understanding of what's needed to be able to deliver it, but by and large, I'm a marketing operator.
Yeah. And I think what you're speaking to there really with your developer is just how important having these skills on board and embedded in the team is, and ultimately how they can literally transform the capability, but also the potential that can be realized. And now, with our agentic tools and solutions, it's an entirely different ballgame what one person can actually deliver with the right tools. And I think, for me, and I know you've written a lot about this, Stephen, I don't think you can vibe code your way to success with any level of complex application. I do think you could launch a successful small app that you vibe coded, but for something as complex and just evolved as the marketplace and the agentic solution that you've put together, it needs a special kind of talent. And it certainly sounds like you've got the right talent on board to actually get you through to launch. So that does sound really, really exciting. And he is brilliant. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what he can reinvent in terms of that whole experience. So
Well,
let's,
you'll be the first in the queue for us to send you the link over to view it privately. But he's fitted in very, very well with the other team. To be honest, he's dragged their talent further forward, so
yeah,
they're all learning new stuff. I am amazed at how he looks at things and solves problems. Obviously, I own the business. I am totally obsessed 24/7, but I've never met anybody who's obsessed more than me. Um, and that's Jay, and that's exactly what you want on your side. And so I think I alluded before to the fact that something really interesting and fantastic popped out of this whole journey in the last sort of 18 months to 2 years, but more so in the last 2 to 3 months since Jay came on board. And that was, Jay, how do we move from our MVP, which is, on WordPress, connected into 11 Labs, works, but it's not exactly scalable. And, it's not vibe coding, but it is vibe coding, if you like. And what we need something to be able to really scale this, because I'm not going to do it on your show for now, but I can do later on. There's a lot goes on in my head around how we can build what we're building, and other people can then build off the platform in their own way, really. Because that WordPress and 11 Labs were great, and they got us to a certain point where people could buy into the vision and the concepts, and therefore signed valuable contracts for us. But more importantly, I said to Jay, here's where I want to take the business to. So don't see the business purely as the property, product marketplace, and the community. In order for the industry to understand how to leverage the value of AI and agentic, we have to show them something. Because, at board level, at C-suite level, it's all a fugazi. They don't really understand it. For some people, they think that creating a short video of funny memes is AI. Well, it is, but is that a real sort of business opportunity? It might be a nice lifestyle opportunity for some, but I'm intent on building a bigger business. I'd really pushed him on this brief, and he came back to me and he said, well, I want to do this because I know how to do it. And I got out of the way. I let him get on with, I gave him a month to come back to me, not to finish everything, but to come back. And I said to him, I don't often get wowed. So your challenge at the end of this month is to wow me with something. And he came back based on the direction, the description, and the business opportunity that I saw. And he developed a foundational platform for agentic development. And we, Jay and I, then really sort of started to date heavily, if you get my drift. I mean, I lent into this, he lent into this, we tweaked, we refined stuff. And effectively, we ended up building by default what was an operating cost for Beasr, i.e., how do we build a platform that we can build our business on, to identifying that we've actually built a foundational platform that's sector agnostic, that allows any business that wants to get into agentic and AI to avoid wasting lots of time, effort, money, and resources over months, as we've done, to actually get up and running within a matter of a couple of weeks. Now, the caveat to that is you still need some bright development support to be able to build on top of. But that allowed us to sort of say, hey, hang on, there's a completely different business opportunity here, which is what I'd seen originally, was to be able to offer out this platform to other companies who want to bring in their own development team or have their own development team to effectively not rely on giving their business to ChatGPT, but own it because they've got all the back office. And at the moment, they're handing that back office over to Perplexity, to, Anthropic, over to lots of these other solutions. And I said, I actually do believe that there's a lot of mileage in giving these people the toolkits to be able to do it. So he's built a modular platform. It consists of all sorts of functions and features, anything from membership through to payments, through to the agents themselves, without getting into too much of the technical side. But you'll understand this. It now doesn't have to go searching the entire library for the answer to your question. We technically structured it using JSON files, so it crawls those based on context and relevance. The agents have been disciplined and structured with empathy. So there's some degree of empathetic approach to conversations. So if you're having a bad day, it will recognize you're having a bad day. If you're having a good day, it'll recognize you're having a good day. We've developed, because we want to put it into the home mover market, we developed a couple of interesting plugins. One is that it will allow estate agents in the UK to start with, but anywhere around the world, to take our marketplace and plug it into their estate agency website, from which they can then earn commission off the back of their customers effectively using the marketplace to buy those products and those services. We then took it a stage further, and it was a crazy 2 weeks with Jay and I when we were sort of going through all of this. I was like a kid in a sweet shop when he was telling me what and how he could do it. I said, well, the holy grail really for any startup business and any business in particular is today with social media, it's moved beyond, posting pictures of your cat and your dog and your dinner to the world of content creators. And, it wasn't too long ago when, you needed to get yourself a high paid influencer to endorse your products. Well, you look across likes of TikTok and Instagram today, anybody that's got 1,000 followers or more, they've got very focused subject matter that they're looking at. Now, if you go and look at TikTok, there's lots of people talking about home moving, how to, get the best out of your garden, how to redecorate your house, or lots of different content creators. And so we've devised a plugin that again allows that content creator to select the category of interest, take the plugin with a unique reference number. They will then be able to earn commission directly from anybody that clicks and purchases through that marketplace. That really just gives us great ubiquity. It gives us fantastic reach. It allows us to enter new territories without having to consider too much of investment into producing, creating marketing stuff, but also allows us to tap into an aggregated audiences of these content creators. So that's the crazy stuff that we're focused on. So I'll go right the way through from the toolkit to develop your agentic solution and strategy into, through to here's how you can then empower your audiences to actually take a slice out of what you're doing instead of, paid media at the moment. We can come on to that in a second if you like, because that's a big bugbear that I have from a retail perspective. There's a few areas where I think retailers can do themselves some huge favors. But certainly on paid media, the landscape for paid media, particularly because of AI, has dwindled. Publishers are seeing less and less traffic, and therefore the old advertising model is up for grabs. We'll talk about ad fraud perhaps in a short while. So actually plumbing content creators into your catalog, if you like, and they then become your ambassadors, of which they can get rewarded based on the effort that they put in from the followers that they built up based on their subject matter, I think is pretty liberating.
Yeah, that really is. And I just want to share a couple of words here, because as you were really describing all of that, you started with really describing a marketplace, and then you described how this can obviously support retailers, how it can support estate agents, and then how you can use user-generated content and affiliate marketing. And then I kind of went to, well, it's probably more of a platform than a marketplace, a multi-sided platform. And then you started describing some of the foundational capability that you've had to put in place to build the agentic systems. So very much like Amazon in the early days, Amazon, created Amazon Cloud because they needed all this infrastructure to run their e-commerce business. So I'm not surprised that you're hitting some of these problems, but of course they are the foundational infrastructure that's required. And so now you've gone from a marketplace to a platform to really an ecosystem. So already, at this early stage of your journey, you've essentially encumbered all of those elements in what you're building. And I think the ecosystem part is probably the only play in town because it is the connectivity to all of those components that actually create something that can become self-fulfilling. And I think it's probably the only way to launch effectively in new markets because the old way isn't going to cut it. So I think it's very interesting, Stephen, if I have summarized that correctly, to really observe this ecosystem thinking. Was that your intent at the beginning to end up with that level of a solution?
It was, but it was two inhibitors. One was finding the talent that could help me bring that vision to life, ticking the box. And the second was I didn't have a clue how much it was going to cost me. So I've sort of gone all in. I don't have a retirement plan because I've cashed that in. I used to have a property in Spain. I cashed that in, but I've gone all in on this. And, where we're at the moment, we've learned a lot. There's a lot of people out there proclaiming to be experts. I don't think anybody out there at the moment is an expert in AI. I think people are, if they're honest, they're still on a learning curve. I know I am. I'm learning every single day. What I'm betting on is that we're slightly ahead of where the market is, and therefore a market that can jump into stuff and get themselves moving, because most businesses just want to build on top of a strong foundational platform, make that easy, and carry on and doing what they're doing. So we ended up christening this foundational platform because I said we've got to have a name for it. So people often ask me, why is it called Beasr? Well, Beasr came really out of me scribbling a project acronym many years ago. And Beasr stands for buyers, estate agents, sellers, and renters. So it's just the acronym for those. On top of which it helps if for trademarking, so that you've not got to pay a fortune to trademark it and various other things as you go around the globe. And you got the consistency. So that was Beasr, which is Beasr.World, which is the home moving bit. That's the sort of if you like, the user case, the case study for other businesses to say, well, crikey, if you build that off this platform, what can we do? So I said to Jay, let me have a think about this. We need to think about what it should be called. And we need a project name because you and I just need to call this thing something rather than keep explaining to each other. I can tell you what I want it to do. I can describe all of the things that it needs to do. I can tell you the sort of things that I'm pretty sure other people, if I was looking at this platform 2 years ago, we'd have bought it had it been available. So I gave it some thought and I came back to him about 3:00 in the morning where, just like me, he's there still on his laptop doing things. And I said, I've got it. And I said, we're going to call it Kintsugi. I said, go and have a look at what Kintsugi means. And for those that don't know, Kintsugi means the Japanese art of repairing pottery or artwork with gold. And I said, I can't think of a better explanation whereby you can repair your existing business with an agentic platform that actually delivers you future gold. And so Kintsugi is the name of the foundational platform. And we're looking now at spinning that out of Beasr.World. So it can be sector agnostic. You can use it in travel, finance, building, procurement. There's all sorts of things that you can use the whole platform for. All built. Modules are already there because I designed it with this retail multi-channel brain. And that's where we've gone. So yes, you've done us a great service in the way that you describe it, Ralph. Thank you very much.
So what's next for you guys then? You're talking about a launch in January. What does that actually entail? And where will you be launching and to who?
So we're going to launch in the middle of January, somewhere between the 14th and the 18th. And if you've developed and launched big technology projects, you never nail it down to a day, but that's the time frame. We're going to launch in the UK purposely because it's a market that I understand. It's a market that I have got a lot of connections in. And so what we want to do is make it public. All the whistles and bells are being added to it literally as we speak. We have probably about 4 or 5 meetings a day at the moment. And then once we've bedded in Beasr, so it's Beasr.World, Beasr.World is the URL. You can probably play about with the MVP version of property and you'll see a little bit of the marketplace in there at the moment, but it's not the all singing, all dancing that we're going to launch in January. So we're launching to the UK. We bed it in there, tweak, refine some of the platform and the marketing side, particularly these plugins with estate agents and content creators. And then it's not a big leap for us to then start to move it out into other territories, the EU, North America, Southern Hemisphere. It's not a big leap for us to be able to do that. So that's the point. At the moment, I'm raising investment, and the investment really is to allow us to add a bit more of a rocket ship to not just that launch, but to actually to scale it beyond that. Because at the moment, it is very much me leading the charge, leading the vision. I need a sort of a chief of staff COO. We need a CFO in the business. We need more developers. And yes, we need some marketing now that's in there. And so we're going to hopefully raise some funds to do that. And then we're going to, at the same time, spin out Kintsugi. It's in its own right as a separate business. And that's the irony, is that what was an operating cost has now become a business and a revenue stream in its own right. And I think that will do me for about the next 18 months to 2 years. And I'm not quite sure where we go after that. To be honest, we're trying to move at AI speed, and none of us can even do that, can we?
Well, I don't even know how to define AI speed anymore. I pick up a new skill and Gemini or ChatGPT launches something new, and I feel like it's moved on to the point that what I've learned is irrelevant. So we are all in a constant state of being newbies at the moment, and it feels exciting, but also terrifying, I guess, for two reasons. And you've certainly highlighted it. One, doing the day job is a lot of work. Two, learning all of these skills is a lot of work. Both are full-time jobs, but you've done a really incredible job of getting a handle on the technology and bringing your vision to life. So, with the question I guess I have is, would any of this have been possible without the revolution in AI technology that we've seen over the last couple of years?
I think the short answer is yes, but it would be far more expensive than it is today, both from a physical resource viewpoint, plus also the level of technology integrations and automations that was needed. And I know this because I built a platform some 8 years ago, and for the prototype of that, I got offered £12 million. Now, I didn't take it, and that's a story for another day, but I had to put it on the back burner, so to speak, simply because then for every pound I would spend on Beasr today, it would have cost me somewhere in the region of £200.
That's a staggering metric.
Yeah, and I could see the pace of the way things were changing. We were doing a little bit. We didn't quite understand and think about it in the terms of it being AI back then, but there are a lot of AI functionality that hadn't really evolved and as mature as it is today was in that platform. And so that's what's kept me going. That's what's reinvigorated me. And of course, the thing that stumbled all of us was COVID. So we sort of re-energized it as I was coming out of COVID. So that's the long answer. The short answer to your question is I don't think without AI, and it's the rate of pace of the way that it's changed in the last 12 months has made such a huge difference. I mean, if we'd have had a Kintsugi, and I know it sounds like you would say that anyway, but if we'd have had Kintsugi 2 years ago, we would have had a business up and running within 2 to 3 months in revenue generated income. The speed at which we can do stuff today is one thing. What I'm after is quality. So you can't go to market on a brand promise of surprisingly easy. It's, when people start using it is, well, it might be surprisingly easy in this bit, but it's not so quite surprisingly easy over here. So I'm a hard taskmaster with the team, but that brand promise is what anchors us internally and externally in terms of the way that we present ourselves into users. At the end of the day, we'll vote whether we're doing it right or whether we're doing it wrong, because we've set up a membership scheme whereby the agents will do all this work for you and find you the best offers for $4.99 a month.
Yeah, that's a lot of service for not much money. So what is it going to take for you to be successful? Because you've got real estate agents you need to bring on board. There are retailers you need to bring on board. There are service providers you need to bring on board. How are you going to measure your success having to bring communities of all of those
Well, we
businesses?
already know from our MVP that we can onboard 2,500 estate agents in the UK. We already have got circa 46,000 retailers on the marketplace because it's an affiliate marketplace. So as we start to ramp up that marketplace and send them better quality, high intent purchase traffic, then we will improve the direct relationship that we have with those retailers. The community bit is going to be the interesting bit that we've sort of, it's a priority, but it's not the biggest of priorities for us. I think the community bit will come alive based on what we get out of the estate agents who themselves know an awful lot about the local areas, the content creators themselves who know a lot about their subject matter, but also the areas that they actually live in. So I think all that, relatively speaking, should come together pretty well. Bear in mind, and you never know until you get going. I've got a good 30 years experience of multi-channel retailing behind me. You know, I've built a couple of $1 billion turnover businesses. I've built and sold my own data intelligence and data marketing company, which ended up, you know, being the fifth largest email marketing company in the UK. With our primary client was Nectar and all their customers. So I like to think, I'm arrogant enough to say that this is all going to happen in one big bang, but I like to think I know a little bit about the online space and in particular consumer behavior and the marketing side of things. And that hopefully the picture I've painted in the route to market for Beasr recognizes that the old way of doing marketing has changed and it isn't going back to, you know, just sending emails out or sticking billboards up or interrupting people whilst they're watching their favorite TV program. You know, you've got to meet people where the pain points are. Technology is the enabler. It isn't, you know, the be all and end all. And we're only going to know once we start to get some serious users on it. The results that we've had so far from people, a select number of people, has been pretty strong. And the response that we got last year and early part of this year when we were looking to sign up service providers. So, you know, mortgage loan companies, conveyancing companies, self-storage companies, broadband companies, the whole kit and caboodle. You know, I was doing those one by one over calls like this and doing them a demo off the WordPress and 11 Labs thing, and they got it. And certain ones didn't, and that's life. But those that did said, right, I'm in. When are you launching? So I can't answer that question at the moment, but as long as you're in. So we agreed the terms, sent them contracts, they're signed up, and the clause in the contract is when we go live, they will become the hero partner for that category. So nothing's guaranteed. I'm not naive and I'm not that foolish, Ralph, but I do think we've got something. Every founder will tell you that there is a slight bit of paranoia every time you look over your shoulder. Is there somebody creeping up behind you? Again, I'm long enough in the tooth to know, yes, there probably is. So just focus on what you're doing. Make sure that you get it, deliver the best you possibly can, and let others worry about what their business is whilst you're focusing on yours. My gamble, if you like, is that we are still pretty much ahead of the market. Whether the market adopts what we're doing or not, I don't know. There's a lot of estate agents that will tell you that they've had enough of Rightmove, who are basically bleeding them dry. Every company that's selling their software into estate agents, it's an additional cost for an estate agent. They get hours for free. Just taking the bookings element out would save an estate agent an average of £25,000 a year. They're getting that for free. They get the marketplace plugin for free, and they earn a percentage of the revenues. So that helps to cover their operating cost, or maybe reduces the painful points that they're getting from Rightmove, where they've got to pay about 1,500 quid a month to actually just be on the platform.
Wow. So that begs the question, how are you going to make your money?
Well, I'm going to exit. If we get this right, the money will come, and that probably doesn't sound as naive as I've just put it. But you know, you get it right, First of all, you're never going to make any money until you've got users. That's both on Beasr.World and wherever we take Kintsugi. So we've got to get users. We've got to get people not just paying for it, but you'll get people paying for it when they think that what you're offering is something that really does provide some value. So it saves them time and it saves them money. And if you're moving, it helps to save you some stress. So that's got to be a winner. On the Kintsugi side, we want to. For me, I'm excited about that because that, for me, will allow all of these startups who know what they're doing with vibe coding to do what we did, which was take their MVP and then how do they build something that's solid, scalable on a strong foundational platform that, because it's modular based, means almost, don't mean this literally, but, you can almost plug and play. And I think that, I can see the big picture, but on a day-to-day basis, I can't see any further than the next 6 months. I just believe, get it right with the users, solve pain points. They will either pay for it or they will use it. Either way, they'll help us to build the business. And then I'm looking for a bit of a clean part or full exit in maybe 2-3 years' time. On to other things. I've got a world of stuff going on up here that if I've got the rocket fuel to do it, I'll continue to do those. I've already got the foundational platform to build stuff.
Yeah, well, you've built the rocket launcher. It sounds like you've got the rocket locked and loaded, and the countdown will start in January. So, Stephen, thank you so much for taking us through that incredible journey. We really look forward to that launch, and I will be expecting my front row tickets so that I can enjoy that firsthand. Thank you very much.
Well, you're guaranteed those front row tickets plus a few others. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast. Thoroughly enjoyed it.